In this tutorial, I'm going to have a look at a bit of node sculpting to simulate a live perspective or envelope effect in Inkscape 0.46. Now, if some of you have been wondering why I haven't made a screencast lately, then it's because of this particular topic. Several weeks ago, one of our loyal viewers, Mr. Don Waters, sent us a YouTube link of Edgar Basto 19's video that showed how to simulate the mold tool from Zara in Inkscape. It's here. Doing this in Inkscape is not the same as doing it in Zara, but it's close and some of you might find it useful. Richard, Don, and I studied the YouTube video rather closely and eventually figured out what he was doing. The video is kind of in rough shape. I think we combed that footage more thoroughly than the JFK assassination video by the time that we were done. I bet I watched it at least 20 times myself. I tried contacting the YouTube video author, but he is being rather silent. Perhaps he isn't interested in others poaching his work, or maybe he's just watched some of my screencasts and didn't want his reputation dragged downward along with mine. Anyway, I had a long email exchange with Don and Richard discussing this newly discovered trick. Don figured out the brunt of the work while Richard and I piped in with our input. The both of them had some pretty interesting tips, which I'll try to illustrate the best that I can. So let's get to it. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make some text. I'll just make this all capitalized and I'll just create some random text here. Okay, and I'm going to make this text bold, and I'll stretch this up to size a little bit, and we'll make this just a little bit more. Okay, that's pretty good text. Now what I'm going to do is grab a rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle around here, and we'll push that to the back. That looks pretty good. You don't need to go too big on the rectangle, just as long as it covers most of the text. Alright, I'm going to select both of these. We'll open up our align tool, set it for page, and I'll just center that up. I'll just hide that away for now. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to do is select our red rectangle and remove the fill. And I'm going to select both of these. We'll go to path and we'll convert both of them to a path. So when we double click, you see that we have the nodes here and the nodes here. Whoops, don't want to add a node yet. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and duplicate that and move that up to the top. We're going to use that copy later. And I'm going to take this bottom one and we'll move it down, and I'll work on this one. Now I'm going to select our rectangle, I'm going to select our node tool, and that will expose our 4 nodes that we have on each corner. We want to add more. You can do that by either windowing around here, or you can do that by hovering over one of them, turning it red, and using the wheel on your mouse to select them. Okay, once all the nodes are selected, you can either use the insert key to add nodes, or you can use the add node icon here. We're going to click this key just one time to add a node here, 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 and here. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to highlight both of these and we're going to do a combine on that. Richard found that this is probably about the best way of doing it, so I'll duplicate what he's done. And by doing that, it combines the shapes and removes the color here. But when you highlight it and select nodes, you see that all nodes are selected now. Okay, now having it selected, what we're going to do is window around everything to select all the nodes. The nodes will turn blue when they're selected. And what we're going to do is, I'm on Ubuntu right now. I think in Windows you have to hold the Alt key down first before you select this node. Since I'm in Linux, I have to select the node first, then hold the Alt key down. Okay, so you want to make sure that you do that properly. And we're going to stretch this upward. Okay, and I'll drop that off, and you see that whenever I stretch, the text follows what I've stretched. Okay, so I'm going to stretch this again. We're going to go in the opposite direction. And again, this is kind of simulating a live path. Okay, so I'll hold that down, select our Alt key, and I'll drag this down. Okay, and I'm not going to go too extreme here. We'll drop that off. And now you see we've got a nice like envelope type effect. And that's kind of what Zara is doing. Zara's tool works a little bit better. It's a little bit more mature project than Inkscape, but this is close. One of the things that you'll need to notice though, one of the things that you'll need to take note of when you push this around, and I'll demonstrate it here. Let me grab this, okay? Our Alt key. And I'll grab this one, do Alt key. You notice that the letters do not parallel the outer shape of this line here. What I mean by that, if you were to take a Bezier path and just kind of strike it against this corner of the B and of the D here, I'll zoom in on this. You notice that it's not quite perfect, where that letter R should be pushed up a little bit. This is where the node sculpting comes in. So what you'll need to do is highlight this and to expose the nodes, and just grab the nodes that you need to tweak. So we're going to grab this one. We're going to hold our Control key down to keep it straight, and I'm just going to push it up to that Bezier path. Same thing with this. We'll just push that up just a little bit. Actually, there's two nodes there. And the same thing with the B. Okay, maybe the B is a little too tall, or maybe I got my path in the wrong spot there. That's probably what it is. But I'll just show you how easy this is. We'll just move this down. Okay, so you do have to do just a little bit of tweaking to keep everything in parallel with the rectangle behind it. Let me zoom back out here. But that's not a big deal. I've seen jobs where you've done quite a lot of node sculpting just to do something simple, and for the most part, this takes care of most of the heavy work, and you just got to tweak the letters just a little bit. Okay, so let's say, for example, you were done here. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to get that text out of there. So we'll select this object, we'll go to our path, and we'll do a break apart. Once you've broken it apart, you can delete the piece behind it to just get to the letters, and you can select your colors. Now they're all individual pieces, which I'll get to that in just a second. We'll give it a color, and what we're going to do is take this B shape, push it to the back to expose the cutouts here. We're going to select a cutout. We'll select the B shape, and we'll do a difference to cut it back out. Okay, you got to do that for everything that has a hole through the text. Same thing with the letter O. We're going to push it to the back. We'll select the small, select the large, difference, and I'll just go through each one of these and just do a difference on these. Okay, now also these are individual entities. You can either combine them by selecting all of them and grouping them, or you can recombine those to make it one entity again. We'll do that now. Now it's one shape. So you can use that text in a project. Okay, so having done that now, let's push that down to the bottom, get it out of the way. And let's take this text here, move it down in the middle, and we'll center up our page. Okay, now let's see where we left off here. Okay, we'll want to take all these things, make it a path. And this time around, I'm going to show you what adding more nodes does. Okay, so we're going to double click this rectangle. Oops, there we go. And we're going to select all the nodes here, all 4 of them. And we're going to click this several times to get more nodes around here. Okay, now what we're going to do is take both shapes and we are going to combine those. And we'll select everything here. We'll hit our node tool and we'll select everything again. And this time when I pull up on this middle one, and by the way, you don't have to pull up on the middles. I mean, you could pull up on these ends, you know, if you want your text to be skewed out that way. Do whatever you want. I'm just pulling up on the middles just because it's easiest to do it that way. But anyways, when we have more nodes around here, you'll notice that when I pull up on this, it has more of a curvature now, where before it was straight. Okay? If that's what you're trying to achieve, then this is what you need to do. Okay, let's pop that up. Kind of looks like a championship wrestling belt if you're into that sort of thing. Okay, so now that we've done this here, the shape behind looks a little rough. That's because each node was a corner rather than a curve. But you see that the text is nice and blended. And if that's something that you're going for, then that's perfect. Okay, so again, you can take this and break it apart and delete that. Okay, and you can use that in whatever you're doing. So that's kind of how you do an envelope effect and kind of a live path effect combined. Inkscape does have its own envelope effect. It works very similar to the perspective effect, but this kind of works a little bit closer to Zara's way of doing it. So thank you for watching. I'm Heathen X.